حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة فترك على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها ما زاغ عنها إلا هالك وما استمسك بها إلا مهتد. صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Just about 4 months ago, I was your guest here and I delivered the khutbah back in November. Back then I spoke about the eternal struggle between right and good, right and evil, good and bad, or good and wrong, since the creation of Adam, peace and blessings be upon him. And the khutbah concluded that the Almighty Allah made the choice between right and wrong, good and evil, a personal choice that every one of us makes on their own. We all remember that Iblis or Satan asked for a respite when the Almighty expelled him from his mercy and cursed him. He asked for a respite. And then when Allah gave him that respite, the extension, he threatened that he's going to mislead us all, right? That he's going to put us in the wrong. That's what he said. لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. But he made an exception. That exception was إِلَّا عِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ, except the righteous, the sincere, the pure among your servants. Then Allah stipulated the criteria when He said قَالَ إِنَّ عِبَادِي لَيْسَ لَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانٌ إِلَّا مَنِ اتَّبَعَكَ مِنَ الْغَاوِينَ. Indeed, this way of my sincere servants is the way that leads to me, and you shall have no authority over my servants except those who follow you. Meaning the choice is ours, right? Iblis, Satan cannot dictate to us or for us. We make that choice. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, I want to take this notion a step further. Now, we made the choice. We made the choice to defy Iblis. And we made the choice to reject oppression and to reject injustice and to reject evil and mischief. But it's not enough. We made a choice, but what kind of choice is this if it's passive? If I don't follow Iblis, but I am passive. If I don't help empower evil, but I am passive. If I don't participate in oppression, but I am passive. In fact, we become all complicit. We become complicit in perpetuating evil and oppression and injustice because we are passive, doing nothing about it to stop it. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, or Allah Azza wa Jal articulates this for us in the Quran in an ayah called Ayatul Tadafu', the verse of repellent, or the law of repellent, Sunnatul Tadafu'. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Hajj, verse 40, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بعضهم ببعض لهدمت صوامع وبيع وصلوات ومساجد يذكر فيها اسم الله كثيرا. Allah says, had Allah not repelled the aggression of some people by means of others, destruction would have surely claimed monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques in which Allah's name is often mentioned. So this is the ayah of repellent, sunnatut tadafu' or ayatut tadafu', or the law of repellent. Meaning that in order to stop oppression, you have to push back against it. In order to defy Satan, you have not only to detest what he stands for or what he tries to whisper or to influence us with, but also we have to defy him in our actions by standing for what is right and doing what is right. Our scholars, commenting on this verse, said that when the people of mischief start rising, it is incumbent upon the righteous people to rise up and to repel their oppression and to repel their mischief, because otherwise it will become dominant. If there is no check and balances, now for those of you who understand how the American system, the American government works, there is something called check and balances between the three bodies of the government. So we have the legislative, we have the judicial, and we have the executive, right? And there is the check and balances that regulates the relationship between the three bodies. Now this is not a political course, but there is this check and balance. So Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us that you need to have that mechanism of check and balances. You need to have that mechanism of check and balances. By checking and balancing or pushing back or counterweighting the force of oppression and injustice. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ tells us in a hadith, when he described this world, this life, he said the life of the world is sweet and green. So everyone enjoys it, right? But he continues to say, Allah makes you generations succeeding one another, so that he may try you in respect of your actions. So there is a reason why we're given this khilafah. فيستخلفكم فيها لينظر ما تعملون. So the reason why we're being empowered, why we're given the inheritance, why we're given the leadership in this life, so that for Allah to judge us by what? Not our righteousness. By what? Our action. Because being passive is not the answer. Being passive is complacency. So my dear brothers and sisters, when we talk about advancing the cause of justice, advancing the cause of goodness, advancing the cause of whatever, tranquility, you have to go against the odds, against the other forces. You cannot leave a vacuum out there to be filled by the forces of evil and then expect that you will have a good result. You cannot allow the oppressors to fill a vacuum and then expect that you will have justice somehow that is going to just happen like that. You have to push back. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. That's what our religion is about. فَيَسْتَخْلِفَكُمْ فِيهَا فَيَنْظُرُ مَا تَعْمَلُونَ. That you're given this empowerment in this land, in this life, so Allah will test you in relation to your actions. But saying that I was against it, but I didn't do anything about it, that's not the answer. Because a lot of people are good at identifying what they stand against. But when you ask, what do you stand for? بصيرون عندنا في العربي خلي من الحيط للحيط. It's better to keep your head low, seek safety. But when oppression dominates, safety ceased to exist. Right? It ceased to exist. Even for those who think that they were doing the right thing. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. My brothers and sisters, I understand that we're running against the clock and I know that the khutbah should be short. So I'm going to jump in quickly to what I'm here for. If we refresh our memories, my brothers and sisters, could be now, we're in the days that will mark the first anniversary of COVID-19. It's been a year now. Things changed, as if nothing existed before it, right? People can't remember how life used to be before COVID-19. We were resenting the masks. Now it became the norm. A lot of the things that we resented at the beginning became the norm, right? Now you would ask why we are going through this. I'm not going to talk about being tested. I'm going to talk about not responding in the right way. We live in a country that is the greatest country on the face of earth. We live in a country that has the vast resources to deal with such pandemic. It failed and failed utterly. We constitute 4% of the global population, and cases in America and deaths are up to 19% of the world population. There's a reason. There's a reason, right? It's not because we don't have the resources. It's because we had a failed leadership. Regardless of why, because he was worried, talking about Trump, that he will lose the elections. But still, with all of the resources that we had, when you had the wrong person to lead, look where we are. Where we are today. Because that was a disablement of the repellent law. Because there was no pushback against the pandemic. Apply this to any affair in our lives. Why do we wake up in early mornings? Why do we go to work? Why do we study? Why do we, try hard? Why do we, invest? Why? Because that's what life is about, right? It's about repelling. Everything is an odd. Everything is a challenge, and you're responding constantly to challenges in your life. That's how it is. Sunnatut tadafu. That's what it is. So there is a challenge and you're pushing back against it. You're pushing back. It's a constant struggle that we live as human beings. And life cannot continue without this constant struggle. It can't. It's not going to move forward. The needle will stay right where it is unless you move it forward, or you move it backward, or you move it to the sideway. You would make that choice. To conclude, I came to your community as I came many times before because I lead an organization called the American Muslims for Palestine. You were part of the creation and the initiation and the development of this organization to become today the leading organization for Palestinian rights in America. The largest Palestinian lobby day is conducted, led, managed by this organization. Last year we had, in September, we had over 800 people attending from across the country. Now they attended online because of the pandemic. So we pushed back against an odd, right? We had over 800 people who attended over 153 congressional meetings. 6 congressional members, 6 members of Congress were part of that Palestine Advocacy Day. Debbie Dingell, which is your congresswoman here, was one of them. And in fact, she said on one of our events that there was a huge pressure on her not to attend. and not to participate. But still, she defied the odds. You know why? One, she stands on a principle when it comes to justice. Two, because you as a community also now became more active. We as a community became more active. That's what repellent is. We know that there is a force for evil, and we know now there is an evolving force for goodness. That's what is more important. That's what's more important. My dear brothers and sisters, this work has to continue to evolve. We have to continue to do the right thing. We have to continue to fight for our rights. Yesterday, Anthony Blinken came out condemning, and the State Department condemning the ICCI decision to investigate Israel's crime, the International Criminal Court. You know, the possible war crimes in Gaza and in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Yesterday, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, called Netanyahu and told him that America stands in full support behind Israel. Many people might despair, but I will tell you, what do you expect from the forces of injustice? The day of judgment, when we stand before Allah, He's not going to ask us about what they've done and what they're doing today. He will ask us, what have you done back? How did you repel it? How did you try to repel it? And if we say that we lack the resources that they have, Allah will say, but that wasn't your mission. Your mission was to do your part. Leave the rest with Allah. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had Muhammad said, there is no way for me to go against Mecca. There is no way for me to call for Islam while the Qurayshans are suppressing and crushing the Muslims at the time. There would be no Islam today. None of us will be here. But Allah was very clear. إِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغِ. You do your part. You communicate the mission. You proclaim it. And leave the rest with Allah. So we need to continue this work, my dear brothers and sisters, to repel oppression, to continue to advance justice. Inshallah, we're launching a 501c4 organization that will do lobbying. We are a 501c3 organization, tax-exempted organization, just like your masjid. But we want to go a step further. Start lobbying. Why can't we have lobbyists for Palestine? Why can't we have lobbyists for Yemen? Why can't we have lobbyists for Libya, for Syria, for Egypt? Why can't we have lobbyists who lobby for our civil rights? Why can't we do this? Who said that we can't? Who said that we can't? We can. We have the resources. We have the talent. We know how the system works. We know. We just need to move the needle. We need to believe in this ayah. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. We need to believe what Muhammad told us, that we are inherited, we are empowered, that we are established in the land. Muslims, non-Muslims, it doesn't matter. So Allah will judge us and test us by our what? Mere existence? No. By our actions. That's what Muhammad tells us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need your support, my brothers and sisters. I know people don't like politics. I know people think that it's only give the masjid and give a non-for-profit, a humanitarian organization, and we should continue to do that. Absolutely, definitely. Let me give you one example, I'm done. You know, the US, when Trump cut off funding to UNRWA, he cut off $320 million a year to UNRWA. That empowers the Palestinian refugees, that helps the Palestinian refugees and addresses their humanitarian needs. $320 million. Imagine if we had a good lobby, a strong lobby. This decision would have not happened. How much do we collect, all of the Muslim community in America? Do we collect $320 million a year? No, we don't. We don't. Imagine if you had a strong lobby that works for our issues, not only in Palestine, but for all of our issues. We can do it, but it's not going to cost us $320 million. A few million dollars will suffice because we are on the side of justice. They might have more resources, but what we have is Allah. Because we're right and we're doing something that Allah likes, and because we're defending justice and defending the human rights of human beings, being Muslims or non-Muslims. I need a few minutes of your time after we finish. If you have to leave, there is a table outside. Give whatever you can. Tax-exempted donation, inshallah. Whatever you can. There's a credit card machine back. When you leave in the lobby, there's a table. Or take a pledge card. Doesn't matter if you give $1 or $1,000. It doesn't matter how much you give. Give something. Claim this action when you stand before Allah, inshallah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to descend His mercy on all of us. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept our prayers and our dua and to accept our deeds, inshallah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to empower us in this land to do the right thing, to stand for the right thing, and to fulfill the command and the mission that He entrusted us with. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He alleviate the suffering that we're going through, and that He remove this pandemic from our lives, and we come back to our masajid, inshallah, in Ramadan, in full capacity, inshallah, Rabbil Alameen. Let us trust Allah while we're doing our part. And also we ask Allah to heal all of the sick and everyone who is in need, to address their needs and to solve their problems. Trust Allah while doing your part. Leave it with Allah. Allah will not abandon you, inshallah. Don't abandon your task. Allah will not abandon you. وأنت يا أخي أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten your lines. صلوا صلاة مودع. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر، وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر. ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر.